Okay, what I'm interested in hearing about, because how long have you had your show? How long have you had
This
it?
is like three and like a quarter years.
So I'm really interested in. I know we say, I mean, I know why we have the show, but I'm interested in what was the, like, what would you call it, the mitigating circumstance, or what was it that made you say, okay, I am going to do the show and I'm going to do it now?
Okay, so Kairos, eh? All right. So why am I doing it now? Well, why did I decide to do it at that time? Well, I answer this a lot actually on the program. I've probably answered it like 4 or 5 times, and I'm so glad you asked because it's important, I think, for at least some people to hear it, which is I realized that a power exists that can combat white supremacy, that any individual can tap into. And that has never existed before in human history. So we're living in a particular time in human history, and I realized that I could take advantage of that power, and that as an individual, I could choose just by myself on my own to activate my anti racism activism just by myself. I don't need to wait for anyone, I don't need to ask anyone, and I can actually have an impact on my own individually. As soon as that opportunity presented itself and existed, you better believe I took it because I was already doing the work. I was already out there in the world, right? Like having conversations, sitting at the bar, having conversations about race, in the teacher's lounge, having conversation about race, like, talking to one of the tutoring moms, having a conversation about race, like, I mean, I did not shy away from these things in my regular life and I saw the value and other people express the value for them. And so I just always knew that it was something that needed to occur and that there was widespread ignorance on the subject of race and racism. And as soon as I saw a pathway to allow for education, allow for, congregation for us to come together, and that there was a power that could join all of our hearts, that could literally, quite literally, join us together as one at the same time all across the world, has the potential to do that. That has never existed before. And it's such a mark of human progress that that does exist, because, and that's why, we're getting to the kind of death throes, I like to say, of white supremacy, because humanity is rejecting it. So, like, ultimately, we either need to lean into that, and the only way to do that is to join our hearts. And now we have the power to do that. We have the power to put our message forth, right? And to make space for these kinds of conversations, make space for people to see that all of us are human and that the racial hierarchy that we've been living under is a fallacy and a lie. And that we need to remove the impacts of that. And so the reason we haven't been able to get to the point of a critical mass of people to be there is because there was never any pathway to combat the powers that were keeping us in a space where we couldn't get there. And now there is.
I like what you said about the critical mass.
Because
The
it's never going to be all
quantitative
of
comes
us,
before
right? And
qualitative.
it doesn't have to be
No.
all of us. Or maybe in the distant future it could be all of us. But like, like I'm just saying, like, we need right now what we need is a critical mass of people who are like enough is enough.